Hi friends, my name is Amber. This is a Lovely Yarn podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is June 5th, I believe, Friday, June 5th. And I am so happy to be here. It is the afternoon. I usually like to film my podcast in the morning, but I just didn't. It was just one of those days today. So I'm sitting down with you all. I'm going to talk about my knitting. I have 2 finished objects. I have 2 summer tees that I'm currently making. And then I have a little baby knit that I'm working on. I have a yarn purchase that I made recently that I just have to share. I don't normally share yarn acquisitions, but I am super excited about this one. I can't wait for it to arrive. And I hope that that sounds like something that's interesting to you. Thank you so much for being here. We're just gonna go ahead and jump in and get started. I am having an afternoon coffee because I gave up coffee a while ago. I don't always react well to coffee, but I love coffee. Coffee is just, it's like a comfort to me. I like decaf, I like regular. I will admit, I do like the little bit of a buzz that regular coffee gives me. And sometimes my body reacts perfectly fine to it and it just translates the caffeine as energy. Other times it translates as panic and anxiety. And there's no way to predict which one's going to happen. So I gave up coffee for a long time and I was just drinking black tea in the morning. And then recently I started having my coffee, 1 shot of espresso in the morning, which is actually less caffeine than a cup of regular brewed coffee, if you look it up. Yeah, lately I've noticed it's bothering me. After a month of having no adverse effects from the caffeine, all of a sudden it is making me have heart palpitations and feel a little anxious, but I'm so tired today, so I thought I would give it a try. I know what it is causing it, and so I just have to talk myself down out of that little bit of panic whenever my heart starts skipping beats. This girl loves her coffee. I really do. I love coffee. I had black tea this morning though, and it just did not cut it. Not with the busy day that I've had today. This is such a beautiful handmade mug, and this, I'm gonna do a little shout out because this was sent to me by Josie of Josie Jo Creates. She has a channel here on YouTube. I will link it down below. She is a young mother with 2, I think she has 2 boys. She has 2 young children, and so she doesn't post a whole lot anymore because motherhood. But she's a super sweet gal, and she sent this to me last year or the year before. I don't know. Lily, my daughter Lily and I, we fight over this mug because we both really like it. It's perfect for my coffee. Let's get into the knitting. The first thing I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to talk about what I'm wearing because it's one of my finished objects. This is the Prospect tee. This pattern is by Tori Yu or Tori Knits NYC. This is probably the first garment. I think it's the first garment that I've knitted from Tori. Exceptionally written pattern. No problems reading the pattern. Loved it, totally enjoyed it. I knit it with Purl Soho linen quill. Loved working with that yarn. It is a fingering weight yarn, but it just feels, I think it was a combination of the yarn and this pattern. Usually fingering weight garments just seem to drag on and I don't really care to knit too many of them. But this one I could knit another, and I'm kind of thinking about knitting another in a different color of the linen quill. But there's also another pattern of hers that I'm thinking about casting on instead, so we'll talk about it at the end. However, it may have been the combination of the textured stitches and then the yarn that just made this fly so quickly, because the linen quill is fingering. It looks like a fingering weight yarn. I have a little bit left here, like you can see, but I don't know, maybe a little heavier. I'm having a hard time. Okay. Now, if you have not worked with the linen quill, it is a combo of several different fibers, which, let me grab the other skein. Oh, it's right behind me. That's perfect. Okay, Purl Soho sent me 3 skeins of this for like yarn support for this project, and I ended up only needing almost 2, but it's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. And this is the strawberry rhubarb color. My husband, he just saw me at it when I was making my coffee. He's like, "You look really good in that color." And I said, "I know, I'm trying to knit in more of my color palette. I've been trying to do that. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I used to just knit in a lot of warm toned colors, which I'm not warm toned, but I used to dye my hair, and my hair would always, it would be like the regular brunette color, and then it would start to turn red. So when I look back now, actually at those videos, this is a little side trail, but when I look back, I think, oh my gosh, that I look so washed out because that was not my natural color. I grew out my gray, and so it's almost completely out. I think I just have maybe a little bit of the red tinged stuff here at the ends, so that's really super exciting. And now I have my more cool toned, I've always had cool undertones, but I'm trying to dress more in my color palette. And so this is definitely a color that is in that color palette. I love this yarn. I had a couple of people ask me if it is scratchy. I don't find it scratchy at all. So let me show you the skein, because you can see that there are, I'm assuming this is the linen. It feels like linen, like little pieces that stick out. Some people may find that a tad bit pokey. I don't feel it at all. I don't have anything on underneath this. It's not bothering me at all. My daughter, who's very sensitive to fibers, she probably would have a hard time with this. I don't know. Anyway, that's how I'm going to answer that question. It does not bother me in the least bit. There's no scratchiness for me. Okay, so I really, really like this pattern. Very well written, instructions all very clear. I like how it has these purl, it's just purl and knitting. So there's nothing like, there's not even any bit of lace. You're just doing purls and knitting to get the texture in it. And perhaps I should move a little closer. I did take some video because I wanted you to see how this yarn blocks out. So you can see here is just a purl ridge, and then this little textured section is done with purls, and then some slip stitches, which you're just slipping stitches, so you're not even like, it's so easy. Okay, so easy. It's a drop shoulder, which I really like. You cast on the back, and you do some short row shaping to get this. Can you see that? And then you knit the front, you pick up and knit the front, and then you join. So you're knitting flat to start, which I feel like that's true of a lot of summer shirts, summer tops, at least a lot of the ones that I've been making recently. But yeah, you join in the under, like down here, and at the end, you only put a tiny little bit of ribbing on your sleeves. So you don't even have much to do to finish your sleeves up in the end. Now, I knit a size 2. I used a US needle size 3. Is that 3.25 millimeter? I'm so horrible. I'm sorry. I'm so horrible with the metric measurements of the needles. But I think that might be 3.25. I will try to remember to put it on the screen. So I did knit 2 pattern for the size 2. However, I did pick up a few less stitches around the armhole. And I think that's because, if I remember correctly, you are knitting these portions, like the flat portions, until you reach a certain depth, and then you stop. And so I could not get the same amount of stitches picked up that she was saying in her pattern to pick up. I just could not do it. I tried several times. I was getting, I think, like 10 to 15 less stitches picked up on my needle. And I think it's because my depth, even though it was the same depth, it was not the same number of stitches. I don't know if this is translating well in me trying to tell you, but I picked up less stitches for the underarm, but it's no problem. See, look, I still have lots of room. So they're not tight at all, not a problem at all. And I think I also went down a needle size. Her pattern was written to use a US 4, I'm fairly certain. I don't have the pattern here. Maybe I should look it up. So the pattern was written to use a US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter, and I used the 3.25 millimeter or the US 3. So I did have to go down in needle size to get the gauge of 24 stitches per 4 inches. And I knit size 2, which is supposed to be for a finished bust circumference of 38 inches. I have talked about this before, but I'm going to mention it again just because I think this is it was so helpful for me as far as getting the right fit on my knits that it may help somebody else who's maybe a new subscriber and does not know this. But I used to measure my full bust whenever trying to figure out what size to knit. And I'm pretty sure that's what the designers say. Measure your full bust and then choose your size from there. And so that's what I always did. And then several years ago, I heard somebody talking about how you should measure your upper bust, which is like right here. So above your chest, like this area, under your armpits. Once I started doing that, I felt that I started getting a much better fit in my garments. So I think I have a 36-inch bust, but around this area, sorry, I keep touching my mic. I hope that's not making too much interference, but around this area, I'm 35. So I'm an inch less wide underneath my arms than I am at my full bust. And so that is just a little tip that I have found to be very helpful for me. I've since finding that out, I have heard other people say the same thing, that they also find that very helpful. So it may be something that you want to consider if you're knitting garments and you're just not pleased with how they're turning out as far as the sizing, if they're turning out too big for you in the end, which is what used to happen to me all of the time. So once I joined under the arm, I ended up knitting 11 inches down until I started the hem. And then I did about a quarter or an inch and a quarter of 1x1 ribbing for the hem. I feel like this definitely blocked out way more than what I anticipated. And so if I knit this again, I'm going to only knit 10 inches under the arm. You will see in the video, because I took video of me wearing it before I blocked it and then after I blocked it. So you'll see the difference. This yarn really blocks out, at least in the length of it. I don't really think it blocked out very much in the width, but the length of it, it definitely did. So it is longer than what I would have wanted it to be, but it does allow for me to do the front tuck. So I can do a front tuck. But yeah, I prefer not to tuck my shirts. So I would definitely knit this just a tad bit shorter. I think probably what will work for me is just to re-wet this and then maybe throw it in the dryer for just a little bit. Sometimes I play around with that because, I don't know, sometimes I can just shrink my knit items just a tad bit to make them how I want to be. I also hung this to dry over my drying rack. So that also could have pulled on it a bit. So maybe if I would have laid it flat. I really wanted this to dry. I just blocked it yesterday and I really wanted it to dry. So rather than lay it flat, I did hang it because I thought that would have more airflow. So I'm just gonna mess around and see if I can get it just a tad bit shorter, because I know you can do that with natural fibers often just by re-wetting them and reshaping them. I really like this. I only used 183 grams total. So I used a little under 2 skeins because the Purl Soho Linen Quill these are 100 gram skeins and they have 439 yards. Okay, so yes, this was nice. This is one of the things that I appreciate about summer knitting. You don't use as much yarn. So I do realize that I knit the second size in this, and so as you knit bigger sizes, you need more yarn. But I think even 3 skeins could get a pretty large, one of the larger sizes, because it is fingering weight. And I really like the Purl Soho Linen Quill. I knit one other garment in this in the past, and then it ended up being way too big. Like, I don't think I did a gauge swatch. I don't know what happened. I don't remember. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. So I frogged that, and this is my first garment since then that I've knit in the Linen Quill, and I really enjoyed the experience of it. So I do have more of this that I'm going to talk about at the end when I talk about a pattern that I'm thinking about buying and casting on. All right, now we're going to move on to my second finished object, which I no longer have because it was a sample knit for Jody of Flower Hill Fleeces, but I'm going to put video and a picture up here on the screen because I did do both of those before I delivered this to her. This is the Pressed Flowers Kerchief. This is a pattern by Amy Christoffers, and I knit this in Jody's yarn, her farm yarn. This yarn is as close to, this is as close to local as I personally can get. Jody lives about a mile down the road from me. This yarn is made from her own sheep that she shepherds on her farm. And then she shears her sheep, and then she mills her own fiber. She has a fiber mill. So this is very local. The entire process of this yarn making is very local to me. Jody asked me if I would be willing to knit a sample for her to take to her, like the yarn festivals and stuff she's going to be attending this year. And so I knit this up for her, and I want to just briefly talk about it because I knit it a little bit bigger than the pattern calls for, and I still was able to only use one skein of each, and I actually didn't even use the full skeins. So let's talk a little bit about the details. Okay, so this yarn is DK weight, but in my opinion, it runs a bit more plumper than a DK weight that you would get like commercially processed. I'm just gonna be honest about that. Like I feel it's a good bit plumper than that. And so I really enjoyed working with this. I had just come off the tail end of knitting several cotton garments, 100% cotton garments, and it felt so good to work with 100% wool again. So I knit the main color as the neon pink, and then my contrast color was the black color. This pattern is knit from tip to tip. So Jody and I had talked, and she wanted to see how much, like how big of a shawl or a shawlette, it's not a shawl at all, but how big of a kerchief or shawlette we could get out of the two skeins. And so I have knit this pattern before, but it's been a couple of years, and I couldn't remember if it was knit from the bottom up or the top down or how it was. And then when I started it and realized it was knit tip to tip, I knew that I was going to have to be a little bit strategic and weigh my yarn as I worked through it to make sure that once I got to the center point, I had enough yarn to finish the decreasing section. These were 100-gram skeins. In the end, I ended up having 12 grams of pink and 39 grams of the black. So I maybe could have put another repeat on each side, but oh, I feel like that would have really, really been pushing it. So the original pattern has I think you do 6 little flowers, like 6 motif increases on the one side. Then you have your center flower motif, and then you have 6 on the decreasing side. What I did is I increased the motif by 3 sections. So I have 9 on the increasing side, then there's 1 in the middle, and then I have another 9 on the decreasing section. And so it makes this more of a shawlette than a kerchief. But I think that actually works out really well with this yarn because, as I previously said, it is a bit plumper in my opinion than a DK, like other DK weights I've used. And so having it a little bit bigger made it easier for me to actually put it on, wear it, and tie it. And I did take video of that, so maybe this is where I need to put that in so you guys can see what I'm talking about. You can wear it 2 different ways, but I would wear it with the point in the front and just kind of wrap it around and tie it underneath, and I'm showing that in this video. But this was a true pleasure to make this. It was such an enjoyable knit. I love working with Jody's yarn. She is going to be at the Fayette County Fiber Festival actually today. So today's Friday, but when I post this tomorrow, June 6th, she will be at the festival, and she is going to have lots of different colors of this Shetland DK for you to choose from. And if you don't make it to the festival, because I realize most of you do not live in this area, she will be updating her web shop when she gets back from that festival and has time. She'll be updating that with all the colors that are left over. Because I know I just saw her this past week when I took the sample to her, and she said multiple people have reached out wanting to buy the yarn, but her stock, her inventory on her shop has been limited because she's been so busy prepping for the festival. Let's switch to whips. I have two. I have two summer tees that I'm knitting, both in Drops Belle, and I'm loving them both. Really enjoying working on both of them. The first one is the Farnham tee. This is by the Knit Purl girl. I bought this pattern, I think when she first released it, cast on that pattern with Barocco Remix Light, I believe. Did not like the yarn with that pattern, ripped it out, and then never cast on another one until this year. So I started this on May 31st, and this is what I have so far. This is the front. That is the back. I am just about ready to join in the round, and from here, it's just gonna fly. It is just gonna fly because I'm just going to be knitting and I'm going to be striping my yarn. Stripes are always so, like, you do stripes and you just like, I'm just gonna get to the next stripe. Basically, you're alternating. So I'm doing 2 rows of my yellow color and 8 rows of the main color. As I said, this is Drops Belle. It is in color 26, which is the main color, which is like I think it's called Purl. My contrast color is color number 4, and it is Dandelion, and it is this happy, let me show you. It's such a happy yellow color. Look at that. I love that. I was like, could I knit a whole garment in this yellow, or would I look washed out? I could maybe pull it off in the summer when I have a suntan. I just love this yellow. I like yellows. I like yellow a lot. Yellow is a happy color for me, but I don't have very much yellow. Okay. As with the Prospect tee, with this particular tee, the Farnham, you cast on the back, you do some short row shaping, and then you do this really cool, intriguing short row shaping for the front to pick up the front shoulders. And I had to watch her video that she included in her pattern because I was reading what she was telling me to do, and I was thinking, that doesn't make sense to me. But what I was reading was actually what I was to do. When I watched the video, I was like, oh, that is what I thought I was supposed to do. But once I started doing it, it started to make sense. And this is one of those instances where sometimes, like, don't freak out, just do what the pattern says. Just do it and it'll work out. And the reason that this is done differently is because you want to line up the stripes. So see how they come to a V? Yeah, that is achieved with this way that you do short rows to pick up sleeves, the shoulders on the front. And it's done that way on both sides. And it's really cool and clever. And I was like, how did she know to do that? I know other designers have done that, I'm sure. But I was just so impressed. But there is a video link in the pattern if you're like me and you're like, what? Because normally, you just like pick up all your stitches at once and you're not doing any short row shaping when you're picking up shoulders, but you do in this one. Isn't that clever though? I just love that. Okay, so she calls for a US 7 or 4.5 millimeter needle as your main needle, and then a 4 or 3.5 as your like hem and ribbing needle. I cast on originally using the 7, and I completed the entire short row section of the back. And I'm like, this looks really loose. Now I've knit with a lot of Drops Belle. I should have, if I would have been smart, I would have looked back in my project journal. I would have looked at my last Drops Belle pattern and I would have been like, oh, that was the gauge I got. I didn't do that, which was silly. I checked my gauge and it was 18 stitches in 4 inches, and your gauge is supposed to be 20, I believe 20. Let me see here, let me scroll down in her pattern and look. Okay, yes, the gauge tension is supposed to be 20 stitches, so mine was going to be bigger. and I ended up dropping down to a US 6, which I must use size 6 needles for a lot of things because I could not find a single set of unused size US 6. And so I had to take them from another project. And I almost did that little thing that would have been really foolish of me, where I thought, I'll remember what size I need. And then I was like, no, you won't. You won't remember, because you'll come back to this, even if it's in a week, you'll come back to this project to work on it and you will not remember what size needle you had been using. So I took a little Post-it note and I wrote US size 6, stuck it in the project bag with that project, because I will not remember, even though I think I'm going to remember. So anyway, so I'm knitting this in a US 6, and I'm slightly worried about, like, it almost seems like it's gonna be a little see-through. I'm a little worried about that. We're gonna just keep going because I'm not ripping this out at this point. I don't like to have to wear camisoles or tanks underneath my summer knits because it's just, that extra layer in the summer is too much. And so I'm really hoping that this is not see-through. Sometimes I think something's gonna be see-through and then I realize it's not. And kind of like how this one was, because this is fingering weight knit on, I use size 3 needle, but like when you look at, I mean, but this does have wool in it, so it did plump up a bit when I blocked it. This Drops Belle is a combination of cotton, linen, and viscose, so I don't anticipate that it is going to be plumping at all. I'm just really hoping that I don't have to wear something underneath this. I probably could have gone down to a US 5 needle in retrospect, but it's okay. We're gonna keep going. But this is gonna be a happy shirt. This is going to be a happy shirt. I cannot wait to finish it. I'm really enjoying the process of knitting it. One thing I do want to figure out though is when I'm doing my jogless stripes, when I stripe anything, I use a jogless stripe method. Now, I feel like that method works so much better in hiding the little jogs when you're using a wool yarn. When I knit the Toasta tank using the Drops Saffron, which is 100% cotton, I have a skein of it right here. Even though I used the jogless method where you pick up the stitch underneath and put it on the needle and knit it together with your active stitch, I can still see those transitions where I changed colors, and it kind of annoys me. I'm gonna do a little research after I join here. I'm gonna do a little research to try to figure out a way to make these stripes where they join, where I'm joining the new color, make it a little more subtle, because I don't like seeing that jog in color. It really irks me for some reason, and I'm not, like, typically things like that, imperfections in my knitting don't typically bother me, but that does for some reason. And I think it's just easier to hide when you're using a wool yarn than it is when you're using a cotton yarn. I think cotton and plant-based fibers in general are a little bit less forgiving. So yeah, I'm gonna look into that, and I will share whatever I find with you guys next time I film. Because if I can find a good way to do that, you're gonna wanna know, right? Yeah, so anyway, I've knitted down to the point where I'm ready to join in the round. And so that's what I'm going to do later today. Okay, then I cast on just this morning, so I don't have very much to show. I cast on the Clover tee. This pattern is by Lene Holme Samsoe, and this is being knit in Drops Belle, this beautiful blue color. Blue is my favorite color. It's color 13, which I think is dark jean blue. I'm really excited to make this. You guys helped me pick this one because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to use this yarn for. I had 3 options, and so many of you said the Clover tee, and at first I thought I was gonna knit the Vilma top, and then I thought, no, I think I really want to do the Clover because I think I will wear that one more. It'll be more practical for me. This is all I have to show but it's gonna be so pretty. So I sat down this morning to cast this on, and I knitted all of the ribbing, and I was getting ready to start the short rows, and I realized I just did the ribbing with the needle that I should be using for the main body size, because you almost always knit the body size in one needle, and then the ribbing you go down typically 2 needle sizes, because it just makes a tighter, neater ribbing. So I ripped it all out, and I did the ribbing again in the correct needle size. So I had to go down on my needle size. I was supposed to be using a US 6 4mm. I am actually knitting this on a 5. And so I went down to a 3 to do my ribbing. I'm knitting the size 2, which should give me a 38-inch finished circumference. So this is one of those things where I was like, should I knit the 3rd size? Should I knit the 2nd size? I'm like, because I think the 3rd size, well, let me look. The 3rd size was going to be, the 3rd size was designed to have a finished bust circumference of 41 inches. So I was kind of like, I have a 36-inch full, and this is one of those examples where the designer said, measure your full bust and pick a size that's 2.5 to 5.5 inches bigger, like positive ease. Yeah, 2.5 to 5.5 inches of positive ease. But I have been knitting like this. You will have seen in the video that this is a bit loose and drapey. It's not oversized, but it's definitely, it's not clingy at all to me. And I thought maybe it would be nice to have a top that is a little bit more fitted, not clingy. I do not like negative ease in my knits. I like to have my fabric not clinging to me. I do not like that at all when the fabric clings to me. So this was one of those cast-ons where I was like, oh, should I do the size 3 or the size 2? But I just really thought, no, I'm gonna go with my gut instinct, cast on the size 2, and I can always increase to add extra. Like if I get down to the waist portion, which is what I like to hide, I can always add some extra stitches, do a little bit of shaping there to give myself some more room. But I don't want a big baggy shirt up top. Like I want to go for something a little bit more refined and fitted in this shirt. So we're hoping for the best on this. I think it's going to work out because I am just following my knitting intuition, which I highly recommend you do. When you're questioning things, I feel like anytime I have been at this knitting crossroads and I'm trying to make a decision about something, if I go against what my gut is telling me, I always regret it. But if I stick with my original gut instinct, it works out. So as you can see, I don't really have anything to show other than the collar ribbing, but this pattern is knit from the top down. It is a yoke, a circular yoke. Sorry, it's a circular yoke, I believe. Let me see. Okay, yes, so after this, so I'm going to be starting the short rows in the back, which will drop the front of the neckline a little bit more and make for a nicer fit. So this, you know, the neckline, the collar's not choking me. And then it's a circular yoke where you're doing the lace that gives you the little flowers. And then after that, you do put a few raglan increases in just to finish off and get ready for the sleeves. In case you're interested, if you do purchase this pattern, she does include instructional videos in case you run into any problems. I don't know that I will be needing to use that because I feel like this is going to be pretty straightforward, but there is a link in the pattern for you to click through and watch. She just says that there are instructional videos. They're on her website and she links them. So have any of you knit the Clover tee? Thank you for those of you who have been encouraging me to knit this one. I'm really excited and I just cannot wait. I just love this color. I love this color so much. Blues are definitely my thing. All right, I talked about a little baby soaker that I was going to knit for my friend who just had a baby. I don't even know, at the time she may not have had her baby yet. Her baby came 3 weeks early. And so when we were gone camping last week, and so I ended up working on this and I knit the entirety of it while I was camping. So let me show you this cute little, so soakers are apparently diaper covers. I did not cloth diaper my children. I use disposable diapers. I feel like if I were to have children now, I would do things a lot differently. I honestly didn't even think about cloth diapers as being an option. I know my mom used cloth diapers, at least for part of the time. I'm the oldest, so I don't know that she used it through all three of us girls, but I do remember her talking about using cloth diapers. I think that I probably would use cloth diapers, at least for a large portion of the time, if I were to have a baby now, for multiple reasons, but I think the biggest reason would be to save money because diapers are so expensive. But my friend has 2 daughters now, and she cloth diapered her first daughter. She always used like I don't know, she has all kinds of covers for her diapers, and she was talking about trying a wool diaper cover because she had been reading about how great they are, and they're very, very expensive. I'm like, show me what you're talking about because I want to see what you're talking about. So she was showing me, and they were like upwards of $100 per diaper cover. I was like, that is crazy, like crazy. Now she buys almost everything secondhand. So she was going to look on Poshmark or I don't know, whatever places that she has. But I was like, before you go spending even used, let me just make one. So I got onto Ravelry. I found this pattern, and I know that probably just by looking at the demographics of my viewers, I know that most of you are not probably in childbearing age. However, you may be grandmothers or grandfathers who knit, or maybe, you know, I don't know, this may help someone. But okay, let me find this pattern. This pattern had so many projects on Ravelry. It's called the Curly Purly Soaker pattern. It is by Marnie Ann Joyce. And the pattern calls for Aran weight yarn. I am not using Aran weight yarn. I am using Cascade 220 Sport because this is what I had. I wanted to just use what I had. I wanted to use 100% wool. I knew that my friend would not want any plastics like nylon or in it or anything like that. And that would take away part of the properties that wool diaper covers offer, you know, the thing that she was going for. Because basically, from what you guys have told me, because there were multiple people who told me, oh yeah, I've knit these wool diaper covers, but basically it will felt a bit. And I know that my friend said that she will treat it with lanolin to kind of make it even more waterproof. Do you hear Tilly? Shh. Can you hear that? She's sleeping on my bed, dreaming. So yes, I had this on hand, and I had seen that a lot of people used Cascade 220, like the worsted weight, but I had the Sport. So I ended up knitting a larger size. I think I knit the large size. Maybe I knit the medium size. There's a newborn, small, medium, large, and extra large, and it goes by hip measurements and the rise. So I just cast on using a US 4 and in the Sport weight yarn, and I knit the 3rd size, and you do some like stuff in here to help it to grow. It's a free pattern, so if you're interested. I'm not going to talk a ton about it because I know a lot of you are not going to be interested in this. All I need to do now is go and put on the ribbing for the legs, but I think it's so cute. It's so cute, and it's nice and stretchy, and it will felt a bit, which is the whole point as she uses it. And this was not hard to make at all. Like seriously, not hard. Not hard the least bit. Actually, it was kind of enjoyable because it was so quick. I've been knitting so many garments lately. I haven't had really any quick projects, and I sat there and I just sat around the campfire and I worked on this for 2 days. Not even, I mean, I wasn't knitting the whole time I was camping. I was doing other things. So it was a very quick knit. I did not finish the legs only because I didn't have DPNs or any smaller, I didn't have any needles that I could do like the smaller circumference knitting with. So I just need to do that, and I will be able to give this to her. Earlier I said that I had plans for the blue linen quill that I bought at some point when it was on sale. So this is the Mountain Bluebird colorway, which is color 1588, and it is gorgeous. I love this blue so very much. And I had originally thought I will knit another prospect tee with this color. Although I really enjoyed knitting this prospect tee, I have decided I don't want another one of them just because I don't really need another one of them. I would rather knit a different pattern. And I actually want to knit another one of Tori Yu's patterns. This one is called the Avenue Tee. And the reason I really like this one is I like the V-neck of it. It is a fingering weight pattern. So this pattern actually has instructions for a crew neck as well as the V-neck. But as I said, I want a V-neck t-shirt. I actually like V-neck t-shirts on myself. I just don't have very many of them. So I would love one in this blue color. This particular pattern has 8 different sizes, and she used Explorer Knits Denali sock for hers. It's knit top down and it is knit seamlessly. Let's see if there's anything else. I did notice when I was perusing through the project pages that there were people who made this long sleeved. So I don't think the pattern is written with instructions for that, but that's a really simple adaptation that you can do to pretty much any pattern. That's what I want to use this yarn for. I don't think that this project is going to knit up as fast as the Prospect Tee did because this one is going to be all stockinette. I can anticipate myself getting a little bit bored with that, although I will say that we have a vacation coming up this summer, so I feel like this would probably be really good car knitting because it's going to be just stockinette. It's knit on, for the main body, it's knit on US 4 needles. So I knit this one on size 3. I will have to see. I might end up having to go down to a size US 3 for this as well, depending on my gauge. The nice thing is I literally just knit this and I have the notes for it. So casting on another t-shirt by the same pattern designer, I feel like is going to be pretty easy as far as figuring out what size. I think I'm going to cast on size 3 because the second size gives you a bust of 36 inches and the second is 40 inches. And so I think a 40-inch would be good to have as a finished bust size of the t-shirt because that's going to give me like 4 inches of positive ease from my full bust size and 5 from the underarm. Recommendation for the ease for this pattern is 1 to 4 inches. If I do a 36-inch bust, that's literally going to be like right at my measurement. So I think I need to do a size 3 for this. She also does, I just looked on Instagram or Ravelry, she also has a pullover rendition of this as well as a vest, but we're going to do the tee. And then I'll have that pattern. And if I want to do long sleeves in the future, I can just figure out how to adapt it to make the sleeves longer. All right, I told you that I made a little yarn purchase. I didn't need to make this purchase, but I saw this post come up on Instagram and I fell for it in a good way. So Barnyard Knits is an indie yarn dyer, and I have followed Barnyard Knits for years, and I have knitted socks with the yarn from Barnyard Knits. I forget what my very first one was. I think it was like farmhouse eggs or speckled eggs or something to do with eggs and chickens, and it was back when I still had chickens. 3 days ago, they posted a picture, and I'm going to show it to you, of that yarn, and I fell hard. It is called Beach Ball. It's not very often anymore that I feel the need to buy fingering weight yarn. I have way too much fingering weight yarn as it is, and I have not been on a huge sock knitting kick. I used to knit so many socks, and I just prefer to knit other things now. But this colorway makes me want to cast on a pair of socks, and so I purchased it right away. It was slightly impulsive. Typically, I think for at least 12 to 24 hours with most purchases that I make, even smaller purchases, because I just really recognize that I don't need things. I don't really need things. Most things that I buy, other than like food and basic survival necessities, they're just wants, right? So I really try hard not to buy a lot of things on a regular basis. But I didn't really think about this. I think I thought for 30 seconds. The time it took for me to get from Instagram to click over to the web store was how long I thought about it. Usually I get to the web store, I add whatever it is I'm looking at into my cart, and then I close it. I close that window and think, I'm gonna think about it. I'll leave it there and I'll think about it. And then most times I think, no, I don't need that, or I'll come back and it's sold out, which is fine. But I just really love this yarn, so I bought it right away. Right away I bought it. It is a fingering weight yarn. They did write that sock sets and DKA weight is also going to be coming soon. I cannot wait. It is not shipped yet, but when it gets here, I will be casting on a pair of socks. I love it. It's so fun. It makes me happy. And I thought to have a pair of socks in this color, it will make me so happy in the middle of winter when it's dreary and dark. This color is just gorgeous. I love it. I love it. The purples and I don't think of beach balls. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think of a beach ball when I look at this color. This is what it looks like when it's still in the skein before you knit it up. And I would not have looked at that and thought, oh, I want that yarn. This is why I love when yarn dyers knit samples. I know it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time, but I think it also could really improve sales because people can see what it looks like knitted up. Because to look at this, I'm like, yeah, those are pretty colors. But then I look at this and I'm like, I need that yarn. There is one indie yarn dyer who I will try to look and see if I can find the shop that I'm thinking of, because they're on, I'm pretty sure they have an Etsy shop. They may have their own web shop now, but every yarn that they list on their shop, they have a little sample knitted up and crocheted up, so you can see what it actually looks like out of the skein. And I think that is such a clever idea because I like to see what it looks like. And right there is a prime example. I would not have felt the need to purchase that yarn had I just seen it in the hank, but because I saw what it looked like when it was knitted into a sock, my brain said I needed to have it. Okay, speaking of sock yarn, man, over the winter, before it was even spring, I hosted a little giveaway here to give away this sock set from Your Perfect Pair, which this is Yarns by Pear Maiden, and it is a rainbow sock set. This is self-striping yarn. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And then a little contrast to go with it. So I picked a winner a while ago. I have re-announced the same winner twice on a video. I've also tagged the winner in the YouTube description box in both videos, and he or she has not replied to that. So we are picking another winner for this because this, although I'm very tempted to keep it for myself, because I did think about that, I am not going to do that because I bought this to give away. And so somebody needs to get this beautiful yarn and knit some really pretty socks. And I think that this would be perfect for summer socks. So I used a random comment picker for YouTube. This is how I always do these giveaways. And there were over 1,000 comments on this particular video. But the winner, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and I will put it up on the screen. The winner is NYGram119. So if you're watching this, please reach out to me. I will tag you in the video description of this video and I will get this sock set. I will just need you to email me your mailing address so I can get this sock set sent out to you. That brings me to the end of this episode. I have talked about all of my active things that I'm working on right now. All of my winter whips, they're all shelved. I'm not even thinking about them. I am just in summer knitting mode. I'm doing some research right now for a future episode that hopefully will be sometime in June, but it's gonna be free summer knitting patterns. And I wanna get that done soon because before we know it, I'm sad to say this, but we're going to be heading into fall. So I'm hoping to get that up sometime this month, maybe even next week. That would be a good goal to set for myself. Keep your eyes open for that if you need any more summer inspiration. I mean, I feel like there's so much out there, you probably don't need any more. But if you're interested in a free summer knitting pattern, you may be interested in that video. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for your support, both by watching and liking and subscribing to my channel. And thank you for the financial support that you send through Ko-Fi. I have a Ko-Fi account, which I will link down below, as well as my Instagram account and my email if you want to drop me an email there. I do read all the comments. I greatly appreciate the comments that you leave on my videos. It's kind of to the point though where I'm having a really hard time responding to them all. So I do apologize for that. Let me know what you are knitting down in the comments below. Have any of you knit the Avenue tee or the Clover tee? Give me any insight or tips for those two patterns if you've worked on either of them. And I will see you again next week with some kind of episode, perhaps that pattern roundup I was talking about. But until then, enjoy your knitting and I will see you next time. Goodbye.